everybody, Joe Workman, and today is an exciting day because Stacks 3 has dropped, and that means Foundation 1.5 is now live for the world, right? Now, I've already done a video on Stacks 3 through Foundation 1.5, so if you haven't watched that and you're not familiar with the Stacks 3 interface, go ahead and check that out, okay? This video, we're going to be going over how awesome the Foundation 1.5 update is and all of the great new features that really, I was actually kind of surprised. I thought Foundation 1.5 was going to be, I'd do a small update to Stacks 3. And the more I worked on it, the more it happened. And it was just like, turned out to be like almost like a 50% rewrite. Not really rewrite, but like a complete overhaul of about half the stacks. So it's huge, right? Huge update. But what's important is that everything is 100% backwards compatible. So don't be scared of opening and updating to Foundation 1.5 because everything will still work. Your old sites will still work. And I'll kind of go over that process now. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on in and look at some of the new awesome features in Foundation 1.5. Okay, so here we have the Foundation demo project, and I've completely revamped this for Foundation 1.5 and using the new Stacks 3 partials and whatnot. So if you want this, go ahead and go to my doc portal and download it. It's available from docs.joeworkman.net Foundation, and there's a link there for the demo project, okay? So first things first, you'll notice that site styles is new, right? It is awesome. Okay, now let's quickly look at what site styles used to look like, right? Here's site styles. And what we'll notice is that the old version of site styles says site styles legacy, okay? If you didn't see, I had quotes, okay? Legacy. And what this means is that the site style stack will completely still work, okay? However, there is a new version of site styles inside your stacks library. Okay, and when you add a new instance of site styles to your page, you'll get the new site styles. Okay, and the new site styles is very similar with a lot of amazing new features. Now, another thing you'll notice is that the site styles global templates are now gone. They will still work. You'll see the quote unquote legacy label to those, and we should use partials from now on. So we really want to embrace Stacks 3's partials interface. But let's go over some of the new site style settings. Now, first thing you'll notice is that we have access to this new thing called swatch colors. And that's really exciting, okay? Now, what swatch colors is before we had access to things like primary and secondary color schemes for, let's say, buttons. Okay, I'm going to add a button here just to show us an example. So inside this button, I have my primary color scheme set for the style of this button. And that is a dark purple background and a white text. We can then change that to be secondary color scheme. Okay, now if you'll notice in the style, we now have access to not only primary and secondary and success and alert, which were there before, but we also have access to all 6 swatch color schemes for my button. So if I go to swatch 1, it's going to be black and white, right? If I go to swatch 5, that's going to be, white on black. And you can change all of these swatch colors. So if I go ahead and I have it set to swatch 5, if I change that now to be a purple button, okay, with, white text or kind of a gray text, okay, that will all change. And that's using the swatches. Okay, so now these swatches are available not only for buttons, but they're available for buttons, they're available for text, they're available for headers, they're available in panels, in icon bar, in everything throughout Foundation. We have access to these swatches now. And if you ever want to change everything that's assigned to a particular swatch, all you have to do is adjust the colors and site styles. This is really going to allow you a lot more flexibility in terms of color schemes and setting up your swatches. Now, I set up the default swatches to be simple black and white on purpose because I wanted you to be able to set the color swatches for your site. Okay, so really go ahead and check out color schemes. There are a lot of great sites out there to help you, find new colors that work together. Okay, and then assign those to your swatches. Now, if we go further down inside site styles, we'll notice a few other new settings. First off, we now have the ability to adjust the column gutter. Okay, this is the gutter in between the columns. Now, this is a global setting, so it's going to change the gutter across all columns in your entire site. Okay, so only adjust this if you really know that you're doing it, right? I added a lot of power user features in Foundation 1.5 for things that a lot of more advanced users really wanted control of. So this is one of them. People wanted to adjust the actual column size in between, or the gutter size in between the columns. If we scroll down a little bit further, we'll notice that our text colors section has been revamped. We now have header and alternate header colors for primary and alternate colors. We have text and the alt text color, accent colors and the alternate accent color, right? You kind of get the drift here. We have link and alt links, link hover and alternate link hover, okay? And then color for code snippets. Now we also have the ability to define whether or not you want links to be underlined on defaults as well as alternate styles. So this gives us a little bit more granular control than what we had before. Now in text sizing, we'll notice that this is also nicely compacted as well, because we now have mobile and tablet plus sizing for H1 through H6. Now hold your applause till after this video, but we'll also see that we now have the ability to customize the paragraph size. So this allows you to change just the size of paragraphs on the page. I know a lot of people wanted to potentially make the paragraph text even bigger. Now, I have strong opinions about paragraph size, and I have made the minimum size to be 1 rem. Okay, so you can gladly make things larger. However, by default, you cannot go smaller than 1 rem. Now, if we go down to element styles, we'll notice that we still have the same settings here. It's just a lot more compact because it allows us to define multiple colors. So we have primary, the background and text. Same thing for secondary. Our accent colors are all in one row, and our modal colors are all in one row as well. And then below that, we have access to all those swatches that we saw earlier. So we have 6 swatches that we now have the ability to customize. So now let's jump into everyone's favorite menu bar, and that is top bar. Now, top bar will have the same legacy stack that we saw with site styles. So if you want to leverage these new settings that you're going to see right now, you're going to have to add a new instance of top bar to the page and replicate your settings, okay? So if we look at top bar settings, we'll notice that the first things that have changed is the background and the styling, okay? We'll see that we have a little bit more access in terms of the accent color and the hover colors, right? Instead of just like light or dark settings, we can actually define the actual color, okay? And what's powerful is not only can we provide the color, but we have access to change the opacity as well. Now, this is something that I forgot to mention in the site style settings, but every color setting throughout all foundation stacks now support opacity. So inside any color, just go ahead and open up the color palette. You should see an opacity slider where you can actually define an opacity to that color. Now you can tell when a setting has an opacity set because instead of a solid color inside this color wheel or color box, it is basically split in half. So you can tell that this particular one, like this hover one, has an opacity set on it. Now, top bar, we also have a little bit more granular control over the font sizing now. So if you go to custom sizing, we actually have a little bit more control and a nicer layout for setting the sizes of top bar. Now, really, the other major feature that has changed in this latest top bar is the extra zone. So if you add a drop zone into top bar, you'll notice that we have this new child of feature. So that instead of predefining I have 5 or 2, 3, 4 drop zones, you can go ahead and just add a new top bar drop zone, and then you add your content into here. Okay, so really there's just a new way of adding drop zones, and this is great because you can easily reorder them as well. So that's really great. Now the next pivotal update for Foundation 1.5 are all of the Foundation column stacks. Now you'll notice here that inside my demo file, almost all of the column stacks here are set to be Foundation, and you'll see the legacy feature here. And that is because all of the stacks are still working, right? I didn't need to update these stacks because the old version was still working. So from now on, if I wanted to use, add a new column stack, I can go ahead and do that. Basically what I'm saying is you don't need to retrofit all of your legacy stacks just because you can, okay? This particular one column Foundation stack still works on this page. I don't need any of the new features, so I don't need to replace it. You can if you want, but you don't have to. With that said, let's jump in and look at some of the new features in the Foundation one column stack. So I've added a Foundation one column stack here, and we'll notice that we can still preview the grid. We have a cool little button now to do that, okay? You can now still turn on overflow hidden. Equalize is now have been revamped. We can now have what's called nested equalizing, okay? We'll do a more advanced viewing of using nested equalizers in the future. But right now, if you want to set to equalize, just go ahead and choose that and use it as it was before. It is a little bit more robust and reliable than it was in the previous Foundation versions. The gutter. We now have the ability, before this was called the collapse setting, but now we have the ability of when to collapse, to basically get rid, for the one column stack, that means get rid of just the gutter on the outsides. So we can say never show the gutter, okay? Or show the gutter on desktop plus, or show it on tablet plus, okay? Or always show it, which is the default, okay? We also have more elaborate max width settings. So with the site width, that's default, right? It's going to grow to whatever the site width we define inside site styles. But we can also make it go full width. And this is basically going to make the content, that entire content container, go the entire width of the browser window. Okay? Now, we'll do that if it's not inside of another column stack. Because if it's inside of another column stack, it'll only grow to as big as that column will go, right? But this allows us now to actually have a Foundation column stack that actually goes the full width of the browser instead of always respecting the site width. We can also now set a custom max width, and we can set the alignment and max width for that particular column. Now, if we look at the padding, we definitely have a lot more responsive padding now. So before we had just padding top and bottom, and we have that still, okay? But if we go to detailed padding, we'll see that we have a lot of granular control over responsive padding. We have different settings for vertical and horizontal. So you can set different units for vertical versus different units for horizontal. And then for horizontal padding, you also have the ability to collapse that padding on a particular device. So do you want to always show the padding? Do you want to show it only on tablet plus, or do you want to show it on desktop and plus? Okay, so that gives us a lot of control on when to show this padding. This is useful if, let's say, you want to have the padding on desktop, but on mobile, you want things to go edge to edge. So in that case, you would set the show padding to tablet plus, and then define your padding to be whatever you'd like. That way, on mobile devices, the padding is cut off so that your content actually has a little bit more space and room to grow. So now let's go ahead and look at the Foundation 2 column stack. Now, its new settings are a little bit different than the Foundation 1 column stack. So here I have a 2-column stack, and I've added a little bit of content so that we can see a little bit more of what's going on here, okay? And actually, let's go ahead and hide our stacks library so that we can see a little bit more within our content area. So here we have the preview grid is the same. The gutter is the same as well. We can only show the gutter never, okay, which you see that content actually expanded a little bit, okay? And then we can actually do a full width if we wanted. So that means that these 2 columns now break out and go full width, okay? Now, if I were to go to quick preview mode, we'll see that we don't have any gutter, and the 2 columns are going full width now, right? So let's leave this so we can kind of see a little bit more in preview. So I can then set a custom max width so that our 2 columns only go a max width of 500 pixels. Okay, and then we can set the alignment if you want. So it's aligned left, aligned centered, so on and so forth. Or we can have our site width, which is going to respect our site width, which on this is 1,000 pixels. And then if we wanted to put the gutter back, we can say, put the gutter back so that on Desktop Plus, we have a gutter. And then on mobile and below, or tablet and below, it wouldn't show the gutter. So we have a lot of control with these gutters and max width settings over our stacks. So let's go back to full-blown Venti edit mode. Now, the responsive padding here, we have a little bit more control than we did before. We have row padding, okay, which if we, let's go ahead and add a background color to our 2-column stack. Okay, let's change that to be, something annoying like orange, okay. And you go to quick preview mode again, okay. What we'll see here is that row padding, okay, will add padding to the top across all stacks. Okay, so it's across the entire row. And then bottom obviously adds padding to the entire bottom. Okay. Now, column padding is a little bit different. This adds padding to the top of each column. The reason that is different is because if I go ahead and turn off tablet sizing for right now, we'll see that I have 0 padding in between my 2 columns because I only added it to the top and the bottom of each row. But if I go ahead and add 1 rem to the top of each, we'll see that I now have 2 rem at the top of both because I have 1 rem for the row, 1 rem for the column, and 1 rem for this. And then I can also add 1 to the bottom if I wanted. Okay, so we have a lot of go for all of these. So now I have 2 rem here, 2 rem here, and 2 rem here. Okay, now if you wanted, you could have 0 at the top, 0 at the bottom for each row. And then now we'll notice that we have 1 rem here, 2 rem in the middle, which is the gap in between, and 1 rem at the bottom. So it really depends on what your layout is and what you want. But really, we have all possibilities here, okay, for determining the padding and between each column. Okay, we have a lot of flexibility here. Now, column equalizer. As I said before in the last 1-column overview, equalizer has been completely redone and revamped. So now we can equalize, okay, and then not only that, but we can specify when to equalize, okay. And what's great is now in equalize, you can go ahead and throw in a jack and set that to be 100% height, and it'll take up the entire height of the column, right? Or if you use a target, throw a target in there, and it will target that particular position properly as long as both, the other column has content in it, right? So this equalizer is very powerful, and we'll have to do a video on this specifically so that we can kind of see how it's done, especially with nested equalizers. Basically, the basics of nested equalizer is you can actually define an equalizer ID so that you can have multiple equalizers across your page and have them be the same height, which is very powerful. Okay. Last is the column divider. Before, this was kind of a simple checkbox if you wanted it or not, but now you can define when to show the divider. So you can say only show the divider on desktop. Okay. And if I add a 1 pixel divider, we'll see that we have a 1 pixel divider. Okay. You can define the color. Now you probably want maybe, define an opacity for that color so that it's not as in your face, right? And you see this live right here in edit mode. And then we have the indents, and we can indent from the top. Okay, if you notice as I'm increasing that, it's coming down from the top. And I can also indent from the bottom. This allows us to kind of have, the content larger than our column divider. So this is very powerful. It allows us a lot more control in terms of adding little accent dividers in between our columns. So I'm really excited about this. I think 1.5 and Stacks 3 really allowed me to make column dividers a lot better. Now, I should note that the sizing setups haven't changed at all from the previous Foundation 1.4 or prior. Okay, it's identical. The way you set up your grid for columns, and you can do source ordering and all that, none of that has changed. All the settings are still identical to what they were before. So, but all of these other settings have changed. Now, I'm not going to go over the 2 through 12 column stacks because they all reflect exactly what we see here in the 2 column stack. So they just have more sizing options for every single column. Okay, but the basic setup at the top here is identical. Well, hey, I just want to make sure you're still with me because, we've gone over a lot of stuff. So in this next bit, I'm going to rapid fire through just a few stacks that kind of got a big overhaul and have legacy versions. So I just want to show you and introduce you to the new version. There's not a lot of, I think everything is pretty intuitive. There's not a lot of, crazy changes. But there's just a few things that, you'll see as a difference, especially with some child love stuff. So let's go ahead and then make sure to go to the end. Stay for the end, because at the end, we're going to go over the 2 new stacks that came in Foundation 1.5. Yes, we got 2 new ones. So hold on to your horses. Rapid fire session of new overview really quick. Go. So first up in this rapid fire session is Block Grid. And Block Grid, as you probably know, is an amazing way to have guarantee equal sized columns across your entire browser, right? So if you want 5 columns equalized, right? Sometimes that could be a little bit tricky with columns, right? With a 5 column, because you can't have all the columns the same size. But Block Grid fixes that for us. So here on Block Grid, we have desktop 5 columns. And as you see, the way to add new block items, okay, is just by clicking this plus, and we can add those new block items. And as you see, everything works in edit mode. So if I set my desktop to 4 columns wide, boom, it restructures the entire grid for me. Okay, if I want to add in, if I want to make it 6 wide, boom, it does it for me automatically, right? And what's awesome is we can, we have full reorder capabilities, which we didn't have in the last version, right? So this is pretty huge. This is a big win for Block Grid, this new child of layout. So I hope you'll love it. Next up is Divider. Now, Divider just got a minor update, okay? But I think it's pretty cool. It has a new color setting. So instead of defining a color, you can actually define colors from site styles. So you can choose the swatches or secondary colors or any of that, right? So you can nicely, customize your dividers, okay? And of course, all of those colors, and you could still have the custom. So if you wanted a custom color, and of course that can have an opacity, right? And so can all the colors inside site styles. So that's really nice. Next up is Panel, and Panel also got the swatch update, right? Which is really cool because now you can style your panels with swatches, which is pretty cool. And it also supports the new equalize height options. Next up, Icon Bar. Icon Bar, similar thing to Block Grid, has a new child of feature so that we can easily add new icons to our bar. And then if you go to the icon, you can easily configure the icon that you want. Set it to, do you want it to be a link? Do you want it to launch a reveal, open a light box, or what do you want, right? Okay, so, or you can actually have a custom image where you can drag and drop your own image in there, okay? So this new icon bar is extremely flexible and very powerful. Last up, very similar to the icon bar, is Button Group. And button group allows you to add multiple buttons to a bar. And then as you see, we can then configure each button individually. And what's cool about that with the bar, with button groups, I mean, is we can actually style each button to be different, right? So that's pretty cool. We can now all of the styles need to be from site styles. So you can use our swatches to kind of define all of the various colors that you want, okay? But then you can define each one individually. And then, of course, as I said before, you can reorder these buttons, right? So if you want to reorder them, you can reorder these buttons with ease, okay? And just like before, like icon bar, you can add a link, open a reveal lightbox, or open a drop down, okay? And each button is configured individually. So that makes this stack a lot more powerful. Okay, so now we're going to talk about a new stack. And the first one we're going to review is a stack called Structure. And the Structure stack is included in Foundation Pack 2, I believe. And it is a free update, obviously, for Foundation 1.5. Now, Structure does multiple things. And we're going to go over the first thing with Structure, and that is to help with accessibility. Okay. If we go ahead and look at this partial, I have a Structure stack inside of here. Now, traditionally, web pages contain three areas. You have the header, the main content, and the footer. So inside this, my home header partial, I have a structure stack. And inside there, I have my structure set to header. Okay. Now, for accessibility reasons, there are more advanced accessibility roles that you can add. Okay. And we'll have more on this in the structure specific video that we'll do. Okay. So if you want to enable ARIA, a specific ARIA role for the data within this structure stack, you can go ahead and do that. Okay. However, you can also just set the structure to be a header. And that's the most basic thing, right? There's going to be header, as you see, footer, and then main. Now, all the foundation stacks, such as top bar or any other menu bar, already use things like the nav structure built in. So you don't need to make sure that you add those into a structure already. Okay. Foundation does that for you, but we have the ability. So if you want to, add them to other things, you can. Okay. But to start off, you're probably going to do things like header, footer, main, and maybe aside, which is going to be like your sidebar. Okay. So if you have a sidebar on your site, you can add that to an aside structure, okay? And I've done that already on my site. So if we look at my foundation site, we saw in here I have a header, okay? If you look further down, I have this main structure partial. If we look at that, all that is a structure stack that contains a structure of main, okay? And if we go a little bit further down on my page, I have a site footer, and if we look at that partial, in here, I have a structure stack that is set to be a structure of footer. Okay, so that's what the structure stack does default. Okay, there are other use cases for structure, and that is for SEO. Now, Google will potentially look at your page and see these basic structure settings, such as this is the footer of the site, this is the main container, this is the header. So maybe Google, if it's indexing things, it may look at the main container and weight that, okay, content within there a little higher or whatnot. Or it's going to look for maybe the title or a header inside the page header, right? But there are other use cases for structure. And that is for Googled structured data. Now, I'm not going to go over all of this because this is a very complex topic. And I'm going to do a video just on using the structure stack for structured data. Okay? But let me give you a glimpse of what this does for us. Here, I've defined a structure. And I just set the default structure as a div, and that's fine for this. Okay? But then what I do is I define something called a schema. And I'm going to tell search engines that inside of this contains a schema that is a product. Okay. Then inside all of my I can now provide data about that product inside of my other foundation stacks. So for image, I go ahead and enable the schema for image, and I set the property to image. Header, I define that as the name of my product. The paragraph here has a schema, and the property is set to be the description of my product. I then have things like substructures within my product that contain offers. And this particular offer is a button, and I have the data property for that set to be the price. And then these two structure stacks here define a structured metadata, which defines that this particular is price currency is set to US dollars. And the URL for my product or for my offer is going to be the following URL. So if we look at this particular structure product page on my website, we'll see that this is my product structure that I created that has all of the data. Here's the product image, the product name, the description, the price, and I have a few hidden fields such as currency and URL. Okay. Now, if we were to throw this data into this URL, okay, and pass this to Google's structured data testing tool, we'll see that Google now finds all of the data for my product. This is very powerful in that it can give your Google much more in-depth search results. And, so this is pretty awesome. Now, the next new stack that we've added to Foundation 1.5 also helps us out with SEO. And this is going to be our SEO Helper stack. And when you add this to your page, you'll notice that when we click on the plus button, we can actually add meta tags to our web page. What's great about this is that many users don't really know, they know that they need meta tags, but they don't know exactly which meta tags to add. So this tells you exactly the meta tags that you may want to add to your web page. So we can add, as we see, Facebook Open Graph. We can add geolocation. Now, maybe you don't want geolocation. Maybe like my personal self, the location of my company is my house, and I don't want people to know where that is. But if you have a coffee shop or something of that nature, adding the geolocation for your website to where the physical place is going to be huge, and it will really vastly improve, your SEO searches, especially for local Google searches. We have generic meta tags for title and description. We have robots. So do you want, search engines to index your site? Now, we also have structured metadata, which this strongly relates to structured data that we saw from the structure stack. And this is just a different way of adding it to your site. And we'll go over this more in depth when we do the structured tutorial video, the structured data tutorial video. And the last type of metadata that we can add are Twitter cards. So if people share your websites on Twitter, you'll have a more rich, Twitter card and, data about your website when people share stuff on Twitter. So that's very powerful. Now, what's great with SEO Helper is that since it is a stack, you can add this to a partial. So if you want to make sure that all your pages have Facebook SEO or geolocation or the same structured data or the same Twitter card information, right? You can add all of that to a partial. And then if you wanted, you can then add a separate instance that is specific to each page that can contain something like meta tags. Okay. Now, this is no different from adding meta tags directly into RapidWeaver. So you could potentially go ahead and add all of these into RapidWeaver's meta tags here. Okay, that works. And I suggest you use maybe one or the other, right? You don't want to add the same meta tags here that you're then going to add also via SEO Helper, because then you'll have duplicate tags. Okay, but this is just an easy, convenient way for you to add these new meta tags. And it really gives you a leg up in terms of what do I need to add, right? Because a lot of people don't know that. So this does all of that work for you. So you have to be excited about Stacks 3 and Foundation 1.5, right? I mean, the power that all of this brings. I mean, I have to be honest. I thought Foundation was kind of as good as it was going to get at Foundation 1.4, right? I was like, what could I possibly do to make this better? And then Stacks 3, kind of came out, and I've been beta testing it for a while, and man, I am flabbergasted and floored on how awesome Foundation 1.5 is. It really brings in a lot of huge power user features, right? With a lot of the granular gutter and settings and paddings controls, and the new swatches are going to be awesome. Okay, but really, I think the new structure and the SEO helper stacks, wow. I mean, I think that will allow you to bring your RapidWeaver websites into a completely new level, because you're going to help yourself or your customers, right? Just to really rank better on Google. Like I've been floored at how rich we can make, searches on Google now with this data, right? Locations. I've seen, some of the beta testers had their cafe, and when you Google searched for it, the map of it came up because he had the geolocation tags, right? When you search for a product with the structured data, you actually see the product information. You see the image, and you see the price, and you see the name and the description, right? I mean, that is rich. That is so, that really gives our visitors or people searching for us a much better possibility of discovering us, right? And that excites me. That makes me really, really excited. I can't wait to see what you guys do with it. I can't wait to see how this improves your business. So please let me know how much it improves. Show me examples. Please, I am really excited to see how you use all this new stuff. I hope you enjoy it. Again, if you don't have Stacks 3 yet, go get it now. Partials will change your life, as well as Foundation 1.5 structure and SEO, right? So anyway, I won't keep you any longer. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will have more videos specifically for structured metadata and the SEO helper stack to kind of give you a little bit more in-depth look and tutorials on what we do and what we're looking for there, and some strategies on what you can implement. Okay. So thanks very much, everybody. I appreciate it. Bye.